Hello guys, welcome to a new tutorial. Today we'll be learning how to make a bustier short gown, and we'll derive this pattern by using the 25% shoulder tightening, and I also went ahead to use 50% tightening. Okay guys, let's get started. So this is my pattern paper. What I'm writing there is the measurements, but I'll tell you as we go on. So the first measurement on my list is going to be the waist length. So for this client, our waist length is 19 inches. Always measure your waist length, both front and back. It is very important. So this is me scoring it up, and from the waist length I went down by 9 inches. That is the hip length. So 9 inches is actually standard for this pattern, so you went ahead to mark 9 inches. And I'm going to go to the back. Now for the back, the waist length for the back is different from the front. The back is 16 inches, meaning that the difference between my client's waist length of both front and back is 3 inches. So how do you get that? Take a bias tape and tie it on your waist and check the difference. So from that 16 inches I mark 9 inches. That is now the back hip length. So the difference is just at the down part there, you can see. Then after that guys, I went ahead to mark my client's bust point. A bust point is 12 inches, while the under bust is 16 inches. And I'll also go ahead and just mark the same thing so I can get a straight line. So like I was saying, take a bias, tie it on your waist, on your waistline or your client's waistline. You take a tape and you measure it. You notice that the difference between the front and back will be there. So guys, the next one is going to be the neck width and the neck depth. So I'm using 3.5 by 3.5 for this client, and I went ahead to cycle it up. Now the next thing is to take the shoulder. Our shoulder is 17.5 divided by 2 is going to give me 8.75, and the shoulder slant for the front is 1.5. So you go ahead and slant it to the neck width. Then guys, we are going to be getting her chest line, and the formula to get the chest line is your round bust divided by 6 plus 2.5. That is an updated chest line. So after getting mine, I went ahead to now rule it. So after ruling it, I'm going to be repeating the shoulder of 8.75 on the chest line so that we can now form our armhole. So this is me ruling it, and I'll get the midpoint. The midpoint, when I get it, I'll divide it and indicate. Then from there I'll go in by ½ inch, and I'm going to curve it to the shoulder slant. Then I'm going to get the round bust. A round bust is 45 divided by 4. That is what I have, and I added ease allowance. I added 0.25. Now there's something. A round bust is 45 divided by 4. What I got there, I added 0.25 before adding another 0.25. The 0.25 you are seeing there is called prime. So I did the same thing for the back. That's the shoulder, the neck. Then the slant for the back is going to be 1 inch. The front is 1.5. The slant for the back is going to be 1 inch. So I'm going to connect it. So like I was saying, if whatever you, let's say for instance you get 40, your bust is 40, and you divide by 4, you have 10. You are going to put 10.25 on the front, and for the back, that 0.25 you added, you are taking it off from the back, so the back will now be 9.75. Then before the prime allowance, before the 0.25 prime. That is how I normally do mine. So all these things I'm doing right now is what I did for the front, I'm doing it for the back. So that is the chest line, across chest back, and I'm going to be putting the across chest back for this client is 17, and I indicate it. So on the chest line, I put the round bust minus 0.25, then plus extra 0.25, because our front bust is bigger than the back, so you have to minus. So I went ahead to connect my armhole together. After connecting, the next thing is going to be on the waist. So for the waist, this client's waist is 39, so 39 divided by 4, put your actual waist. Now we're going to be doing a snatch method on this pattern. So measure your client the way their normal waist is. For the hip, I divide the hip by 4. I put the same thing I did for the front. Now for the back, because of the butt allowance at the back, I added 0.25 to the back. That's 0.25. I subtract it from the front hip before adding 0.25 prime. So now after connecting the waist, you are now going to connect prime to prime. Prime on the chest line to prime on the hip line. So connect your waist. Look at what I'm doing. Then now connect prime to prime. Can you see it? So you are going to connect prime to prime, the 0.25 on the chest line and on the hip. So we now have this shape. Now we are going to get our dart line for the back. So I'm supposed to put my shoulder on the chest line so I can get a straight line. That was what I did for the front. I hope you understand. Yeah, so we are still on the right track. Then I'm going to now divide the measurements there by 2. That will become my dart line for my back. Then I'm going to put the same measurement on the waist and on the hip. Then I'll roll a straight line. We now have a dart line for the back. So for the front dart, how I normally do mine is your round bust divided by 8 minus 0.75. So whatever it gives you is what you use for your darts. It has been working for me over the years. So I did that and I got a dart, a radius. So I'm going to also extend it. I extend the line all the way to the hip. So this is now the dart line for the front. So let's now get our dart intake. Can you see from the waist to my prime line, I measured it. I also measured the one on the front. What I have is 2.2, 2.2, and I'm going to divide it by 6. Can you see the way I'm folding my tape? Divide first by 2, divide again by 2, then divide again by 2. So that means we divide by 6. So whatever you have there, you're going to put it on both sides of your darts. For the front, you put 1 on the from the waist, you put 1 there, you put 1, 2 on the back. That becomes 3, 3. That's 6 all together. Now to get your dart length is going to be 6 inches from your waistline. You are also going to connect. So if you don't want to do any snatch, everything you have for your dart, they just replace it at that box where you see my hand touching. Just put everything back there. If you don't want to snatch your waist, this is a snatch pattern. But if you want to snatch, you return only 1 instead of the 2 darts. We did return only 1. I hope you understand. Yeah, so you connect it to the waist, to the dart leg, and on the for the back as well, connect it to your chest line, and you also connect it to your dart length. Why am I tired? So this is me, guys. After this is me connecting it, and we're not going to connect the prime on. So that one that we replace, you take it to your 0.25 on your chest line with a broken line. You take it to the 0.25 on your hip. You repeat the same thing. You also do the same thing here. Now we are going to eliminate zip bulge. Remember, this pattern is without zip allowance. We did not add zip allowance yet. I don't do that. It's when I finish drafting, I'm going to add it on my fabric. So went down by 6 inches on the waist and I connect it to the chest line. Now the difference between the front and back is 3 inches. So go down from your breast point by that 3 inches and roll it to your bust point. Can you see it? Now we are going to be closing it. Watch how I close. So fold your paper on your breast point line. Fold it like that. Place one hand on your bust point and just close the dart. Can you see the way I close it? It is very easy. When you close it like that, you notice there is short edge. So place your ruler on your 0.25 prime on the chest line and connect it to the waist. Yeah, so you take your tracing wheel and you just trace it. Use your tracing wheel on that line, roll on it. When you roll on it and you open it up, I can only see the dotted lines the tracing line gave me. I'm just going to use my pencil and follow that trace. So we're actually done with this basic bodice. With this like this, you can sew a fitted bodice. This is a bodice. Then after this, now we're not going to do the 25%. So on your shoulder to your neck wideness, your neck width, divide what you have there by 2. Can you see? Take your ruler and roll it to the breast point. This is an intensive tutorial, guys, so you need to watch it and learn. Take your scissors and just cut that line, cut it to your breast point and you stop. After cutting it, now we are going to close that dart. In order for us to be able to close it, take your ruler, your scissors and just slash your paper. Slash it and close the dart. When you close the dart, take your tape and close temporarily. So when you are closing, don't press your tape too much on it. Yeah, you're going to press it like that, and you are now going to check what we have in between there. Whatever space we have there, you measure it. What I have there is 5.25. We are going to divide it by 4. That is 25%. That's 100 divided by 4 is 25. So what you have there from that line indicates it. Then replace it back from the actual shoulder line. Can you see it? Replace it back. You are going to take your armhole curve. You are going to roll it, connect it to your across chest line for front. Then that's when we divide by 4 from that line. Just roll a straight line to meet your breast point. Can you see it? So we are going to close it up. Now I'm going to, not for me to close it up, I remove my tape and I slash that middle, that crease line, that line already gave me. I slash it up, so I'm able to close the 25%. I close it inside. After closing, I use my pin to just secure it down because you're still going to open it later. Then mark 1.5 from for your shoulder slant so that you can get the actual slant line. Then you connect it to that replacement we did. Then from there, connect to your, I cleaned it, so I'm correcting it back, so to your across chest front. You know we divide our shoulder, the armhole line by 2, the midpoint, so you connect it back. Then guys, to get where our tube dress is going to be, I went up from the breast point by 4 inches. 4 inches is okay, but if you want to show plenty cleavage, you can do 3.5. So on that line, I'm marking half inch on both sides. Now this is 50% tightening for a straight dart. So from my shoulder line, I went down by 9.5 for the neck depth. On the under bust line there, I marked 0.75 on both sides. That is standard for everybody, irrespective of any bust size. Just do 0.75 there. Connect it to your breast point using your curve ruler. Do the same thing on the other side to your breast point. From there guys, now connect your half inch on both sides of the overbust to your breast point. That is overbust tightening. So you can see me using my curve ruler to connect it. Now after that guys, I am now going to measure what we have, but before that I'm connecting it to my neck depth, the 9.5 neck depth from the shoulder line. So I'm going to measure from there to the overbust line. I also measure what I have on the front is what I'm going to mark for the other side, so that when you sew, one will not be longer than the other. Take your curve ruler and just blend it into the armhole. Can you see the way I'm blending it? Blend it into the armhole. So that is where the length of the tube will be. Now I just increase the neck depth because my client actually wanted 10 inches. I was one that was trying to be modest, doing 9. But let me give her what she wants. After that guys, yeah, so I just want to write the strap length. I have 7.5 for the back. I actually have 8. Yes, and I wrote 9, but I'm going to correct it. Then we don't actually need this because the strap has a rope where you tie. So go ahead and close your bust dart back. Go ahead and close it back. Can you see? I removed that pin from the, when I closed the 25%, I removed it and I went ahead to close the darts back. We're actually done with this. Now for the length of this blouse, the picture on the thumbnail, it has a blouse. I went ahead to mark 7 inches. It's a blouse and skirt, but my client wants hers in a dress. But I just want to teach you guys. So 7 inches from the waistline, from the back waistline also 7 inches. Then I square it. I'm going to go from the side up by 1.5 so that our side can be curvy. Then you just blend it into your center back and your center front. I hope you understand. You blend it into it. Then we are done with this blouse, but I am going to be cutting it on the waistline because my client wants a dress, a short dress, instead of a skirt and blouse. So this is me cutting it. So when I'm cutting like this, I'm also going to eliminate half inch from the waist upward. That's it, to avoid any zip bulge. So I eliminate it and I'm going to be trimming it off. So I hope you guys understand this tutorial. It is very simple. I took my time. If you've gotten to this point and you have not liked this video, kindly like it, share and subscribe. So that is the back. That's me cutting it out. Now this is the up. It is ready. Let's continue with the down. So do you see the one we cut off? I'm just going to be cleaning the 7 inches length I said if you want to convert it to a top. So, and I removed the ½ inch zip bulge that I tried to avoid from the upper part. So I take a fresh paper and I tape it down. So now I'm going to add to this skirt. The skirt is going to have zip allowance now. I will add on the blouse on later. I just want to teach you guys. Now from the waist I mark 35 inches being the length of the skirt of the dress here. So I mark 35 inches and I roll it. I'm going to also measure 35 inches also from the waist of the back, and I also roll it. Now that's the back length. I roll it down. I'm going to be adding 1.5 to the butt allowance. To the hip line I added 1.5, to the knee 1 inch, to the waist I added 1 inch to the waist. So I just want to cross check. Remember, we off ½ inch tightening for the upper part. So this is I'm connecting the zip. Okay, so we are done with the zip allowance, and I'm going to be trimming it off. After that, we'll continue with the front. So that is the front, guys. Now what I have on the hip, I'm going to extend it the same number. I'll put it on the length of the dress and I'll be rolling it. I'll do the same thing for the back. What I have on the hip, I'll put the same thing on the length of the back dress, and I'll also roll it. This is me just extending my line because the back line was actually short. So I went ahead to extend it, and I want to take off 1 inch on the side. I can as well leave it straight like that because it is a short dress, but I just want to give it a little bit of pencil. So I did 1 inch, and I'm going to be closing the darts of the down parts. I don't like sewing darts either on my skirt or on my dress. The only dart had to be the upper part. So I'm closing it up. I close my darts, and I actually replaced the dart that I closed, and I realized later I don't need it, but let's see. So I replaced it and I roll it. Like I said, if you don't want it too fitted, you replace it. But because I did not replace all the darts on the on the blouse, I already replaced one. Yeah, so I'll be cutting it off. I went down by ½ inch on the center front, that part, and I'm trimming it off. Yes, so that it can have a little bit of curve on the down parts. That's to avoid bulge on your front skirt. So I close the dart of the back as well. I use my tape to seal it down. I'm not going to be removing anything on the waist of this skirt. So like I said, I brought in the front upper parts to check if I'm correct. Can you see? Then I realized that I was not supposed to replace that I replaced, because I did not replace it initially. I did not replace everything. Do you understand? So I trim it off back. So the back, since I've learned my lesson, I did not bother adding it, so I had to trim. So that's the back and that's the front. So we have our pattern ready. Now when you place your upper part and your down part, we did not eliminate the back darts of the upper parts here. So when you close it, it becomes the same. This is the end of this tutorial. I have tried, guys, and I'm tired. Bye.